Okay, hi. My name is Tim Brown, and I am in my graduate education class 535, and we were asked to do a 5-minute presentation. So that's what I'm going to try to keep this YouTube video down to a 5-minute presentation on debunking myths. That's right, debunking myths. We're gonna debunk a myth today. Now, when we talk about debunking myths, what we're doing is we're discussing myths about neuroscience and how neuroscience has been included into our classroom. And so what we want to do is we want to make sure that whatever is brought into the classroom is actual and factual. So without further ado, let's cover a couple of things, and let's. I'm going to try to grab my PowerPoint because you know what? I'm going to upload a PowerPoint on this too. So yes, some people would say that I'm an overachiever. Yeah, maybe, but you know, I want to make sure that we have good things. And so, anyways, without further ado, let's talk about debunking myths. And so, what is neuroscience? Well, Merriam-Webster's dictionary, the 11th edition, published in 2009, defines it as a branch of the life sciences that deal with the anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, or molecular biology of nerve and nervous tissue, and especially with their relation to behavior and learning. So, key on learning, but more importantly, key on behavior. So in layman's terms, what does this mean? It is the sensory part of our body that relates to our brain. In other words, it's what happens to hear, what we see, what we hear, what we feel, smell, touch, it all goes into our brain, and it's how we think or how we perceive and we process things. But it incorporates the senses of sight, smell, and touch to give validity or concrete reality to what we hear. It's a majority of the input devices to our central processing unit. In other words, to our brain. It is a part of how we learn, but it's not all of how we learn. Okay? Now, I'm going to try to adjust this a little better here. Maybe that's going to be a little better so that I can read on this. Maybe not. But the myth that I want to debunk is the Mozart effect. And that myth is, according to Berglund in 2017, listening to classical music increases children's reasoning ability. That's a bunch of hogwash. It is false. There's very little consistent evidence that classical music, so-called the Mozart effect, has an impact on children's reasoning ability at any age. Now, is the Mozart effect all bad? Well, a Harvard journalist put in the Harvard Gazette, Peter Russell, in 2013, that though dozens of studies have explored whether and how music and cognitive skills might be connected, when Mayer and colleagues reviewed the literature, they found only 5 studies that used randomized trials, the gold standard for determining causal effects of educational interventions on child development. Of the 5, only 1 showed an unambiguously positive effect, and it was so small, just a 2.7% increase in IQ after a year of music lessons, that it was barely enough to even be statistically significant. So the Mozart effect is basically ineffective. So what's accurate about the Mozart effect? Well, we know that it's not correct. I mean, it's not true. And the shocking impact that Russell identified in 2013 was that more than 80% of the American adults think that music improves children's grades or intelligence. And that was said by Samuel Mayer, a Harvard Graduate School of Education doctoral student working in the lab of Elizabeth Spelke. That equates to 8 out of 10 adults. Think about that for a moment. This unfounded neuroscience claim for years has duped 80% of the adult population in the United States into believing it works when in reality it does not. So the bottom line is, when we're faced with a choice of incorporating a tactic or a technique into our classroom, it is our responsibility to ourselves, our community, and most importantly to our students to educate ourselves on the subject that we're asked to buy off on as an effective method of the learning process. We need to ask ourselves, are these new developments accurate, relevant, and tested research methods proven to work, or are they just some hype to rob us of our time, money, and energy while hindering our learning capability? Can we be creative without neuroscience inclusion? If we as educators are going to attempt to include or introduce sensory learning into the classroom, it needs to be purposeful, meaningful, and factual. Otherwise, it is a valuable waste of time, effort, and money. So how does all of this tie into people heightening their learning ability through listening to classical music? As I mentioned, neuroscience is a branch that studies the sensory input aspect of the brain to learn. Music is auditory and a stimulator, just like vision is a stimulator. Music can enhance the learning experience, but studies clearly show it does not build cognitive processes. So the impact of neuroscience in education is that teachers, schools, and school districts may waste time and money pursuing the so-called brain-based interventions that lack a firm basis in research. And educators understand that neuroscience, or rather, do educators understand what neuroscience can and cannot offer to find value in what it does? Now, is sensory learning all bad? No, not really. In our textbook by Carey, he shares a research project conducted by Philip Kelman, a cognitive science that at the Bryn Mawr College. Taking flying lessons in the 1980s, he developed a perceptual learning module, or a PLM, that flashed a display of the instrument panels of an aircraft with different readings to learn, or actually to quickly analyze what they were indicating. He, along with Mary Kay Kaiser and NASA Ames Research Center, tested the module on 10 beginners with no flight training whatsoever and 4 pilots that had a vast amount of time on the cockpit. Now, what occurred with the module after 1 hour is nothing short of astonishing. Not only did the seasoned pilots improve, but those who had never clocked 1 minute in a plane were able to determine what the readout was of the instruments as if they'd had 1,000 hours in flight time. That's amazing. So, does sensory work? Absolutely it does. But when we're talking about the Mozart effect, nope, that's fictional. That is a myth and does not work. So, we're going to have to kick it to the curb. Have a great day. Thanks a lot. Again, my name is Tim. I'm with Concordia University in the theories of teaching and learning. Have a great day. Bye now.